Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod, here to talk about the challenge season 39, episode 19, titled Only One Gets the Crown, which is the season finale of season 39. Previously on the challenge, the final began with the players losing $16,000. They voted Corey into elimination, who ended up challenging and defeating Jay. Then the players were all paired up for a series of legs, leaving Emmanuel with the best time, and the episode left off with Emmanuel having to decide another player to send into a last-minute elimination. Before I dive in, if you want to catch up on previous recaps, or if you're a first-time watcher, I put a link in the subject so you can catch up on my previous recaps, and consider subscribing if you like the content. So let's dive into it. We pick back up where we left off with Emmanuel deciding who to pick, and he picks Nerys, which was pretty predictable because she's the only person who wasn't working with him. She goes to a draw with 6 options, 4 names of the available players, and 2 chaos maces. The editors had no time for this draw. They sped through it with no suspense. Nerys pulls Mariah's name, and they face off in their big final elimination, which is putting 6 blocks in a box. And they really play up how hard it is to put these blocks in this box, but remember when TJ said this was going to be the hardest final ever? This elimination happens pretty quickly too, with Nerys whooping Mariah's butt at this. When I say this first elimination was rushed, they did Emmanuel's pick, Nerys's pick, the whole elimination, and said goodbye to Mariah in the first 5 minutes of this episode. So we have to say goodbye to Mariah here, who the show kind of shuffles to the side here unceremoniously, but did seem to have a major impact in the strategy of the season, with her having been apparently Michelle's close ally, and seemed to be someone who Michelle and Jay both respected. Her relationship with James was really the only reason why he lasted so long. Speaking of James, her main storyline of the season was obviously her ditching Johnny Bananas for James, which was definitely a downgrade. Like, James doesn't even live in the same country as you, but go off, girl, do whatever makes you happy. Other than that relationship, she doesn't really do much on this season. She goes into this one elimination and loses. So her stock as an actual competitor has fallen in my eyes, but her stock as a social player definitely improved because it shows that she was able to make strong bonds that got her far into the game. Though in the future, I don't think she'll be very popular with the vets who are friends with Bananas, and I didn't really talk about it much, but it still doesn't make sense to me why she didn't just dump Bananas and waited for him to find out through the grapevine that she was hooking up with James. So now that I think about it, I'm taking back her social stocks, but I'd love to see her back on the show because we definitely have a shortage of messy personal drama. Also, I recommend listening to the official challenge podcast that she was on because every time she's on there, it's really good. After Mariah's departure, TJ tells them that they're staying up all night long.
No one sleeping tonight. No one is sleeping. Staying up all night long. No sleep.
And he gives them some little tasks to do while he's gone. They have a task to each navigate their tiles out of the box in front of them. Apparently they did this during the Meet the Cast episode that still isn't on Paramount Plus. And honestly, to this day, did anyone watch that? The 3 of them who finish first can go relax with luxury items, and they can also sabotage each other. So they do their silly task and they reflect about their letters from home and their whys. Nerys comes in first and sabotages Emmanuel and Colleen, reminding Colleen that she's a... Nerys takes the blanket, Emmanuel is second and gets pillows, and Berna gets a little chair. Colleen finishes last, and they're all hanging out by the water. This looks quite lovely. They're not allowed to sleep, but honestly, if I were them, I just agree to all sleep and let TJ punish us tomorrow. In the morning, Berna is unhappy.
I'm losing it.
TJ shows up driving a little boat. I guess it's cool to see TJ on the boat, but there's no way they can hear him announcing the rules. They have to swim across the water and complete 3 checkpoints on an island to become the new champion. Emmanuel gets to land first, but they all seem to be about even and close behind, and they all get to their first checkpoint where they have to drink TJ's gross drink again, then rappel down a cliff. Berna gets there last and doesn't want to drink TJ's go-go juice.
I hate this drink.
Berna has a whole meltdown, but she drinks her drink, and she throws up to appease the puke lovers watching this show. Corey sees the heights of the rappel, and now he's crying and wanting to quit, and TJ's like,
Corey, what's the problem?
Then TJ gives him a pep talk, which is really just TJ telling him he's not allowed to quit, and Corey cries to TJ more, to no sympathy.
Bro, it's a little baby hill. Get your ass up here.
TJ looks like he's contemplating a new career with how pathetic this is. Emmanuel skitters down the rappel, and this rappelling looks pretty easy when he's doing it. It looks like assisted walking, but Corey and Nerys are falling all over themselves as they go down. Circus performer Berna zooms down and calls herself Lara Croft. They get to the next checkpoint with Emmanuel first, followed by everyone else. They have to create a tangram puzzle. Emmanuel, then Colleen complete this, leaving everyone else behind. At the next checkpoint, they have to chug another go-go juice, and then solve an underwater puzzle that has previous champions' names on them, giving us a cameo of Kina's name. There's a name you don't hear often, the OG Queen of Bullying when it was cool, possibly teasing a Kina return. I got so bored watching this this, I googled where is Kina now, and all I have to say is Kina Allen, licensed psychologist for The Traitors season 3, please. Corey and Nerys get to the diving challenge, and Nerys is terrified, but before she can conquer her fear, Emmanuel is done diving and on to the next thing, while poor Berna is timing out on the tangram and having to drink again.
I hate this drink.
The last checkpoint they have to do is a bigger version of the elimination Nerys is good at, but with 5 puzzle stations instead of 3, Nerys and Corey decide to work together to finish their diving puzzle so they can catch Emmanuel, who's stuck playing his Sudoku. They get there while Emmanuel is doing his first puzzle, and Nerys and Corey get to work. Corey completes one of his 5 tasks, which is hammering a barrel down flat. Elsewhere on the island, Berna and Colleen help each other to finish the diving puzzle, so now everybody is working on their 5 puzzle stations. The other 3 puzzles are the color sorting, balancing the equal stacks on their plate, and counting circles. I was going to recap this more of a play-by-play, but it ends up being a nail-biter with everyone except Berna having 4 flags. But Emmanuel gets a Sudoku and takes off, and Nerys takes off soon after, and there's a commercial break. It was pretty obvious that Emmanuel was going to win, but during the commercial break, I really had hope that Emmanuel would get lost or take a shortcut through the woods and trip like Anissa. But we come back, and Emmanuel gets to the finish first, winning $250,000 and becoming the new champion, giving a nice speech about how his family doesn't have heat and he'll be able to change his family's lives. Nerys comes in second and wins $60,000. Back at the puzzle, Corey is stuck on his balance beam, and Colleen passes him, so Colleen ends up coming in third and winning $30,000. Followed by Corey and Berna coming in last. They all should have gotten money for completing this if this really was the hardest final ever. But let's wrap this season up by talking about our 5 finalists. Starting with Berna, who I was optimistic about coming into this season, and I think she really delivered. She comes into the season being volatile and apparently having a close friendship with Michelle, then feeling left out when she wasn't in the bedroom with her friends, and accusing the girls of laughing at her in the industrial-sized hot tub. By the way, it seems like they forgot that they had a giant hot tub, but that hot tub looked like a lot of fun. In the beginning of the season, Berna seemed like she'd be an early boot, but she was really protected by Michelle, with there being tension between she and Michelle, when Berna was obviously aware that she was at the bottom of Michelle's list. But Berna went on podcasts after the show, and she seems to still hate Michelle's guts about this to this day and is holding a grudge. I'd like to see that beef play out on future seasons. I'm shocked at her performance in this final, though, because they had to drink that drink over and over again, and I get it.
I hate this drink.
But you did it before, just do it again. It just didn't feel like she was really committed to being competitive and winning this, which is a shame because she had a chance, and who knows if she'll have a chance to run a final again. In fourth is Corey, and I feel like the show really tried to feed us an edit for Corey that would make us forget his behavior in the beginning of the season, but the reality is he really dogged Big T and Melissa, and it just made him look bad to have this petty drama with these 2 girls who were on their way out of the game, and it felt really like he was punching down, when at the time he was pretty much just the tag-along for the popular kids. But then he went back to groveling to the populars and rode their coattails to the end. And this is a knock on the editors, but I feel like they didn't know what to do with him in the finale, and they gave him so much more personal content than everybody else. They showed his childhood photos twice, maybe 3 times, but nobody else in this final got that much content, and the narrative didn't really make sense, saying repeatedly that he was going to win it and show people at home who relate to him that they can do it too, only to be made a fool out of by the editors when he couldn't do the balance beam and they were playing silly music. I actually do think that Corey has the ability to win this show under some circumstances, especially with the allies that he made here, but I'm not as confident as he is that he could win the next time. In third place is Colleen, who I said preseason was known for being a snaky game player, obviously with her experience being the mole, and then she lied about being the mole on her first season of the challenge. This season, she played an interesting game where she seemed to be playing the middle expertly, and I do feel like we were getting her point of view consistently in confessionals, but there were a lot of questionable moves where she was one of the people spearheading the counter alliance against Jay and Michelle, but then the time came for those votes to happen, and they had the numbers, but she just didn't vote against Jay and Michelle, and ended up being a big reason that Horacio and Neresa's side of the house were so screwed. It all did end up working out for her, and if she flipped, she may not have even made third place with that other group, so this was a good season from her, though I think I've seen enough from her, and she didn't do enough in the house drama-wise for me to want to see her take a spot on a future cast. Our runner-up, Nerys, started the season pulling out a t-shirt that said "I heart to make boys cry," and I really had hope from that point that this would be a big girl power season, especially with there being only one winner. She gets into a relationship with Golden Boy Horacio, which provided the rare cute showmance content on the show, but also she wasn't afraid to have arguments, fighting with Colleen and Jay, and really keeping the back half of the season super interesting. In the game, she jumped ship on her alliance that probably would have been an easier trip to the final for her, but she stood up for what she felt was right right, and the ends justified the means because she single-handedly eliminated 5 strong players and still made it to the final and won some money in the end. She's definitely going to be a staple face in the 40s of the show, and now that she won the $60,000, Olivia can stop saying she's broke. And finally, our new champion, Emmanuel. In my cast reaction, I said I felt like he would be one of the future faces of the challenge as well, and he pretty much dominated this season, doing well in all of the challenges, and being in the dominant alliance that ran the show, with his name pretty much never being in jeopardy. But with that being the case, he doesn't really do anything memorable for the majority of this season, with the only thing I'll really remember being that he cheated on his girlfriend. Though these days monogamy is a spectrum with these reality TV people, the show made it seem like he really was cheating, and then he had an awkward conversation with Colleen after they hooked up, which was weird, but he ends up dominating the final from the moment they become individual, and honestly he deserves the win for really schooling the other players here and winning fair and square. I think he's very silly and does bring a lot of messy personal behavior to the show, which I do appreciate in my reality TV characters, so I'd like to see him on the show more regularly. So that's all I have to say about the final of season 39. The season was okay, but then it got good in the end. I am going to recap the reunions because I love the messy drama. I'm here for it. But those videos are going to be a little bit more unhinged. I feel like when they get messy, I get messy. So I'll be back next week to talk about that and the Survivor premiere. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of this final? Who from this season would you like to see play again? Until next time, have a nice weekend. Bye!